In the name of Allah, the gracious, the ever merciful. Dear students, today we start lecture series about Become Part 2. I have chosen business law for these lecture series. So we take start with the very first chapter. The title of this chapter is Contract and its Kinds. Now I am going to provide detail about contracts and kinds. So here comes a list of contracts which we normally establish in our daily life. So I have chosen a few examples from your as well as from our daily life. Number one, deposit college admission fee. When we deposit college admission fee, we establish a contract or a kind of relationship with our college administration regarding study. When we buy internet connection, we establish a contract, or you can say an agreement, with the internet service providing company regarding internet services. When we buy a mobile phone SIM for our regular calls or for access to the mobile data, we establish another type of contract. Same is the case with the railway ticket. When we buy a railway ticket, undoubtedly there is a contract between passenger and railway administration. Next, meal order in a restaurant. When we give order in a restaurant regarding our requirement or hunger, after giving the order and after accepting the order, there is a contract between you and the restaurant administration. And finally, which is our area of concern, that is a business deal. In business life, businessman makes hundreds business agreements with their other businesses or with customers in daily life. So the question arises from the students, what is business? In simple words, legal activities undertaken to earn profit. So all those activities which are undertaken or performed to earn profit becomes your business. So any activity which is rendered to earn profit, but that activity is not legal, will not fall under the domain of business. So business is that activity which is rendered or performed to earn profit but should be legal one. Next to that business, what is law? The body of binding rules and regulations, customs and standards established in a community by its legislative and judicial authorities. So once again have a look on the law definition. Simply you can understand all the rules and regulations which are established by the country legislatives or judicial authorities becomes the law and applicable for the residents of that society to follow. Next, law of contract are in Contract Act 1872. The laws regarding contract are in a booklet. The name of that booklet is Contract Act 1872, which is equally applicable in Pakistan. Dear students, in front of you here you have a glimpse of Contract Act 1872, or you can say the highlighted features of Contract Act 1872. It came into being 1st September 1872. This Contract Act 1872, having 266 sections, More precisely, you can say having 6 parts. Now the classification of 266 sections, section 1 to 75, belongs to the general principles for all contracts. Section 76 to 1 to 3 deals with sale of goods, and next 1 to 4 to 147 sections deals with contract of indemnity and guarantee. Section 148 to 181 deals with bailment and pledge. Section 182 to 238 deals with contract of agency, and finally section 239 to 266 deals with partnership act, which is commonly known as by the students Partnership Act 1932. So here comes the slide which will give you the basic idea about contract. I mean to say, what is contract? An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Now you can see I have divided this phrase, or you can say the first line, into two blue lined. First one is agreement and second one is enforceable. So you can say these are the two constituents of contract definition. So contract is an agreement which is enforceable by law. So this definition which is given to you according to the section 2 subsection H of Contract Act 1872. So this one is very precise and easy to learn and easy to understand. Now again, putting emphasis on this particular definition, now you can see this definition comprises of two main pillars. The first one is agreement and second one is enforceable. Again, question arises, what is agreement? An agreement is a promise forming consideration for each of the parties. Again, lots of doubt arise. What is promise and what is consideration? So again, you can see in the agreement definition, 2 points are quite apparent and mentioned with underlined red. First one is promise and second one is consideration. So when agreement having consideration for the parties, or you can say a promise having consideration for the parties, it becomes an agreement. Second constituent of contract definition after the agreement, that is enforceability. An agreement is enforceable if legal action can be taken against its breach. So all agreements are not enforceable by law. Those agreements which are enforceable by law mean those agreements for which, if breach takes place, legal action, if initiated, those agreements are called enforceable, and after enforceability those agreements become contract. So two important things require to become a contract. The first one is an agreement and second one is enforceability. I will throw light about these two concepts, agreement and enforceability, in coming lectures. So here comes a very simple equation for you to understand. Promise and acceptance of promise. Once again, proposal. After the acceptance of proposal, it becomes promise. Now promise with consideration change into an agreement. Agreement after enforceability changes into contract. So you can say an agreement which is enforceable by law is a contract, or an agreement which is not enforceable by law is simply an agreement. Here comes essentials of a valid contract. These essentials expressed under section 10 of Contract Act 1872. Here is a snapshot of all these essentials from 1 to 10. I'm going to read out. First one is agreement. Next is legal relationship. Third one is free consent. Fourth one is capacity of parties. Fifth is lawful consideration. Lawful object next, not expressly declared void. Legal formalities, certainty. And finally, 10th number, possibility of performance. Students, first one is agreement, and I will elaborate agreement according to the section 2 subsection E of Contract Act 1872. Every promise or set of promises forming consideration for each party is an agreement. So you can see in agreement what two important things are required. First one, there should be a promise, and second one, that is consideration. I will give you a brief information about the promise or promises and consideration later on. So, types of agreements, social agreements and commercial agreements. As far as Contract Act 1872 is concerned, we are concerned about the commercial agreements, not concerned about the social agreements. Giving you a reminder, social agreements are those agreements which are not enforceable by law, does not put rights and obligations on the parties. But on the other side, commercial agreements put rights and obligations on the parties. Parties are bound to perform their respective part of promises. Now you can see elements of agreement. Apparently there are two elements of agreement. First one is plurality of persons. Second one is consensus ad idem. Here plurality of persons means to establish a formal agreement, or you can say to establish a formal promise, at least two persons are required. One who makes offer and other who gives acceptance. So at least two persons are required to make a valid agreement. Second one is consensus ad idem. It means identity of mind. Both parties must agree on the same thing at the same time. This is called consensus ad idem. In simple words, you can say identity of mind. Both parties should have their identity of mind regarding the purpose of agreement. Next, essential according to the Contract Act 1872 section 10, that is legal relationship. Only that agreement which is made with an intention to create a legal relationship can be a contract. So to me, this is very critical and important. Whenever you are making offer to others, you should have intention, you should think clearly, should be very clear and vigilant that I am going to create a legal relationship with the other regarding this offer. Next, free consent, that is about the Contract Act 1872 essential, and this can be expressed with the help of section 14. Consent is free when not caused by, means when consent is free. First one, coercion. Coercion means the use of physical or moral force to compel a person. When you use physical or moral force to compel a person to get the consent of that person, it becomes not free consent. Second one is undue influence, controlling the will due to dominant position. When you exercise dominant position to get the consent of other, it becomes not free consent. Now when you get consent of another person by act of deceiving, it becomes fraud, and that consent is also not a free consent. Next to that, misrepresentation. It is expressed in these words: not bona fide representation. You can say bona fide representation which is false, means expressing a statement which is false just to deceive the other. Once again, here the consent is not free consent. Very next, that is a mistake. When you get the consent of another person and that person is giving the consent by mistake, or you can say unilateral consent, means the consent of one side, or you can say bilateral mistake, means mistake from the both sides. Next to that, that is the lawful consideration. Here this will be discussed under the section 23. Lawful consideration means, students, something in return, benefit to one party, price paid by one party for the promise of other, something given or obtained. In simple words, you can say it is the price of promise, with which promise of other is bought. Consideration should be lawful. Consideration is lawful as far as law is concerned, if not forbidden by law, if not fraudulent, if not involves injury to the person, if not property of other person, means your intention is not to injure the property of other person, if not immoral, or if not opposed to public policy. The next one is capacity of parties. According to the section 11, parties who are competent to contract. It means the parties are eligible or able to form a valid contract. Here we have few requirements from the law. First one is age of majority, and we all know age of majority is 18 or above. Second requirement as far as eligibility or capacity is concerned, that is sound mind. Next one is not disqualified by law. I'll provide you detail of all these 1, 2, 3 points in the coming lectures. Sixth essential regarding Contract Act is lawful object. The object for which agreement is made must be according to the law and should not be based on fraud, should not be illegal, should not be immoral, should not oppose to public policy, should not imply injury to other person or property. So you have to note here, every agreement of which the object or consideration is unlawful is illegal and therefore void. So lawful object means the main thing for which the parties are going to establish agreement. Another essential regarding Contract Act 1872, that is writing and registration. Contract may be oral or in writing, but there are certain contracts which should be in writing and should be registered through proper process. Contract may be oral or in writing. I am just giving you the reminder, but should be in writing to prove if required by law. So contract must be in writing, signed, attested by witnesses and registered where it is necessary. I have given you the examples on the screen. Now you can see the agreements regarding sale, mortgage or gift of immovable property. Next essential is certainty of terms. Agreements, the meanings of which is not certain or capable of being made certain, are void. Terms of agreement must be clear, complete, and certain. Means all the terms of agreement between the parties should be clear to each and every party. Next, possibility of performance. An agreement to do an act impossible in itself is void. So, if you look at this statement, it means legally and physically not possible. If your act is legally or physically is not possible, it becomes impossibility of performance, and on the basis of impossibility of performance, your agreement is void. Next, 10th essential, not expressly declared void. So there are certain agreements which clearly mentioned by the law these are expressly void, and void ab initio means right from the beginning. Agreement in restraint of marriage, agreement in restraint of trade, and agreement of wager are few examples. So this is all about very first question from the very first chapter of business law. Dear students, if you have any query, you can ask me about your issues, about your concerns. So wishing you a very good luck. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.